my kids have never had an over-the-counter or prescription ever. I was giving somebody something for a headache, but what I really wanted to talk to them about was the food that they were consuming so that they didn't keep having the headache.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful. I'm so glad to see you, my dear friend.
And you. It is a beautiful day here in Ohio. We have sunshine.
It is a rainy day here in Los Angeles, which is helpful considering our recent wildfires. So, rain in the desert, always a blessing, is what I say.
I'm sure you'll take it. That'll be
Yes,
great.
yes. Well, I'm so excited that we have long wanted to collaborate together. So we are old friends. We first met at Mother Earth News Fair when our book, The Big Book of Kombucha, debuted, and we happened to share stages, and we share a publisher, and we share values. And so I'm very excited for us all these years later, almost a decade later,
We're
to
still
be
standing.
we're still standing. Oh my gosh, we've weathered the storms. We've had to evolve and change. And now that has gratefully brought us into this wonderful, sweet collaboration with Soda Farm. So, why don't we just share a little bit about your background, your books, your journey, and how you came to create Soda Farm?
So I think you mentioned that we were sharing stages, and I think when your book came out, I think I was still promoting my second book, Heal Local. I got into all of this because of a health issue. I have a plant science background, and I was already into honey and making things for my customers at the farmers market. And I hit a huge bump in the road. I was diagnosed as infertile and actually fired and kicked out of the medical system as unfixable. And that really started everything. It's a strange origin story for why we make soda, but we started out, I just didn't accept that my body couldn't work in this perfect design that it had. And so I started working on that, and everything that I made, then I was sharing with my customers. Everything that was successful for us, I was sharing out. And a lot of that, it wasn't just the herbs. It wasn't just some protocol that was going to get everybody fixed. It was really this journey of changing how we were inhabiting our lives. And that was our food and our what we were putting on our skin and how we were cleaning. And it really, where I thought we were pretty healthy, I grew up on a farm and we raised our own food, and I thought I had it over the average consumer until I realized that I was just as broken as everybody else. And that was when I learned that the things that I was putting in my body was actually creating imbalances. So I went through an arc in writing books of from conceiving healthy babies, where I talked about fertility, and then Heal Local was this handbook that helped people start to create their own home protocols, and I moved into Sweet Remedies, and I really got into being this person that knew honey and now sugar in a way that most people don't. I have a very different perspective. Actually, I don't have that different of a perspective from you, but I champion sugar, real sugar. I champion sugar as a necessity. One of my favorite saying is sugar is life.
It really is. It's
Our
your
sodas
DNA.
really our sodas really came about because once I fixed myself and I had kids, they grow up and then they want stuff. And watching other kids have soda that pop on the market, I don't believe that we shouldn't. I don't think we should not have that fun in our lives, the bubbles and that liveliness and that vitality. So I had to create something that my kids and other people could enjoy and still be consuming farm fresh real food.
Well, and I think your story is not unique. And I've had my own struggles with fertility. And while children did not issue forth, it also brought me closer to understanding my own body. I was
Yeah.
like, I drink kombucha and I drink raw milk. And so therefore, I don't need to supplement with anything. But then when we realize how toxic our food supply is, how we're inundated with toxins from the air, from EMFs, from, just we're literally bombarded. It's amazing that we're so resilient and so capable of adapting to everything that gets thrown at us from every direction, your laundry detergent, your
Yeah.
beauty and skin products, and how we've had to become these detectives. And it's exhausting after a while to have to read every label and to know everything. And that's why I'm grateful that there are wonderful products like yours that exist, because you've done that guesswork for us. And you've been through the journey and you've lived the experience of not having access to these things. And you're right. We all deserve to enjoy bubbles. And, my perspective is, nature sodas are our fermented drinks.
Yeah.
And those are, sodas are simulacrum. They're an imitation of a natural product. They add acids that deplete the body versus the organic acids that are naturally created by kombucha, water, kefir, and ginger bug and different ferments. And, before Prohibition, ginger beer was the most popular beverage in the United States. And you get
Yep.
Canada Dry, right? They went dry, no alcohol. And that's how we got ginger ale as a soda. And, but the root of these sodas are these herbs, are these healing remedies that come from Mother Nature. And what I love is you put them in a bottle and you made it so easy, whether you want to flavor your kombucha or fermented drink, or you just want to add some bubbly water on your own, to get a delicious, flavorful, and yet you can trust that it's not going to have this negative impact on your body.
Yeah, I wanted to provide, it seems like we're always in this position as a business, as a calling to be this bridge. And I really believe that the fermented drinks are where we really need to be. We need to be drinking something that is giving back to us in a living enzyme. But not everybody's there yet. And some people are still drinking the mainstream sodas, which I'll refrain from naming. They're still very addicted and ceremonially tied to drinking these things. You can't just tell somebody like that, you stop it, just put it down, it's bad for you. It's this negative pushing on people that it's not successful. What I really wanted to do was provide this, like, it's okay to have soda if it's made with real things. And the way that we make our syrups is that you could then flavor your own kombucha or water kefir or jun. And that gives you yet another small step. I'm a big believer in small steps. Maybe you start with just making it into a soda, and then you flavor something that you buy, and then you flavor something that you make. And then maybe you secondarily ferment what you make. There are all these different levels that you can go to depending on where you are. And I think that our access back into this traditional knowledge has to be done in those little manageable steps, because we've gotten so far away from what it is that to be healthy, to have our digestion working, to realize that we are more than human cells. We are this organism of a community, and
A community
some
of
people aren't
living
ready to grasp
beings
it.
that, yeah, absolutely, that lives within us. And, Mother Nature has always had the solutions we need. And, you learned herbalism to really understand how plants can help us. I bet this is where your love of honey has also come from, and how the bees interact with we're basically drinking flower juice, right?
Yep.
Flower sugar, if we're doing honey. And then, like you said, sugar comes from a grass. And so this is another plant. It's a plant-based food that actually has a lot of nutritional value. And what it also has that many sodas don't is a feedback loop. And that feedback loop is, if you eat too much sugar, you're going to feel terrible. You're going to have a tummy ache.
Yeah.
And it's going to be understood that, oh, I've had too much, and I'm going to experience something as a result. And that's going to limit my intake.
As an herbalist, as somebody that I claim my ethnobotanist title probably more often than I do the herbalist. But looking at the chemistry in these plants, I look at sugar, cane sugar, very differently. It is full on medicinal. It is crammed with nutrition and beneficial phytochemicals. If we were to really talk about the truth of that, the list of benefits in there is really long. But what we do to sugar is what makes it so bad. As my background, I want people to get something when they consume sugar. And that's what's been missing is we took this plant and many plants now, we just isolate that crystalline experience of sugar, and we've taken away all of the nutrition and all the fiber and all of the goodness. And when we separate it, it's what we call free sugars, and free sugars are a problem. When I started formulating for my sodas, you will find all of these beneficial plants. You'll find adaptogens in there, you'll find mushrooms in there, you'll find all of this other stuff that's going on, because when we are using the sugar for a purpose to deliver nutrition, it's not something that we need to fear or feel like it's taking away from us. It's when we consume just that isolated crystalline stuff it's there's no nutrition that's being delivered, and so you're getting nothing and you actually go backwards. So whether you, like in our syrups, whether you consume them as a soda, they're still giving to your body because there's something coming along with the sugar. And then if you add them to a probiotic, you're getting all of the nutrition and all of the goodness that's in the syrup that's extra along with the probiotics. So it's like supercharging what I'm already just trying to do in the syrups.
Well, that's exactly right, in terms of a delivery system. And this is, people get freaked out about the sugar in kombucha. They're like, oh, so first of all, the way that we label it is completely misunderstood and is actually inaccurate, because the sugar remaining post fermentation in kombucha has to be listed on the label as added sugars. And so there's no way to know if a producer is adding sugar after the fact or if that's just the residual sugar that remains.
Yeah.
Now go another layer deeper. What do we mean by sugar? When we ferment sugar in kombucha, in water kefir, it breaks from that disaccharide into those monosaccharide components, which actually have a lower glycemic impact on the body than table sugar, than high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah.
And as we know, those chemicalized sugars have a lot of deleterious effects. And because there's no feedback loop for them, for those chemicals created in labs, your body has no way of ascertaining if it's consumed the right amount or not. And so you end
There's
up
no full. Ever.
Right. Exactly. So it doesn't ever close that feedback loop. And that's why I think that's so important, to emphasize that feedback loop. When you've had too much of something like that. So it's so confusing as a consumer, but you're right. My thirst outgrew my budget. I started buying my kombucha at the store. I wanted more than I could afford. And then I started making my own. I make my own elderberry syrup from time to time. But as you know, making syrups can be a time consuming process. And so it's great that you have, and we sell a kit so you can make your own at home with these wonderful ingredients. Same with our root beer kit. And we can't always make everything. And that's why it's great that there are products that exist. Moreover, because of your botany and herbalism background, you're putting things in there that maybe most people wouldn't include or know the benefits of, and marrying them together. Because sometimes herbs can be bitter, sometimes they can have flavor profiles that might be too intense, but by combining them in the right ways, you're able to create something that's delicious and nutritious.
Yeah. My labels, we talk about don't get, when you're reading labels, don't get something that's got a whole bunch of stuff in there that doesn't really need to be in there. Mine actually has a lot of extra stuff that you wouldn't expect. So it's kind of funny that I teach people the label reading. But all of the extra stuff that I've dumped in, I sometimes feel like in the chemical industry, they're all talking and they have like waste from one industry and they get together and they're like, we've got all this stuff and we need to make some money off of it. Could you just throw it into your drink over there? Like just add it in and you can sell it that way. I like sometimes I look at the labels and I'm like, why does that need to be in there? It doesn't do anything. But I swear it's been that backroom deal. Mine actually has a lot of other things beyond just what the flavor is going to give. And I have an earthy elderberry, and just for the flavor, you could do elderberry and maybe cinnamon or something like that. But mine has elderberry, shiitake, echinacea, astragalus, and ashwagandha. I don't need those other things in there to deliver the flavor if that was really what I was going for. But all of my formulas round out to where there's more going on. There's more coming to the body. And also, the evil sugar. I really want to make sure that sugar has some amazing things to carry into the cells, because that's what it does. That's what it's supposed to be doing.
I mean, sugar is the food. Our bacteria consume sugar. Our DNA structures are built from sugar. And I think that the demonization of sugar has really been a cover for, they want to impose a sugar tax on things with sugar, but not on the diet sodas that have the chemicals that actually harm and deplete your body. So it's, again, this bait and switch and confusing to the consumer, who then are like, oh, avoid sugar. And sugar is like an addictive substance and this and that. And yes, again, it's all about context. And this is why it's so important to understand what it is and why it is people are saying certain things. And so, for example, I know you're also preserving your products with citric acid. Now, on the surface of it, that's it's lemons. It's, it's coming from citrus. Well, unfortunately, what we've uncovered, and thankfully we live in an age where there's many, look, we've been doing this a long time and we're fringe for a long time. And yet, thankfully, this awareness around what we're putting in our bodies has really come to light in this age. And so much citric acid that's used commercially or in big ag is actually grown on a black mold that can have toxic effects in the body. But your citric acid is different.
Yeah, we use, because we've gone through the process in the past of being certified organic and also chasing down we really care about every ingredient that we use. It was really important to us that we work with somebody that would certify to us that they were getting their citric acid from citrus fruit. And the name, like you said, oh, well, that's a no-brainer. Citric acid is good. It's vitamin C and it's giving me all kinds of goodies. Black mold, when it's grown on black mold, there are a lot of people that have a food allergy reaction to it, and they don't even realize that it's there. They don't know. I mean, who would assume that their food has been grown on black mold? And I'm sure it seemed like a really good idea to the person that started it, but from an efficiency standpoint, which is what our mainstream food system is all about, efficiency, instead of focusing on what is good for our body, what will heal digestion, what will make sure that people are getting the benefit of their food. Black mold will tip a lot of people into this inflammatory cycle that they can't get out of unless they pull over to the side and really do that work. And we serve a lot. Our customer base has always been a lot of folks that are, unfortunately, they woke up to what's going on in the food world because they had a health issue.
Right.
I have met people that grew up crunchy and their moms were crunchy and their grandparents were crunchy, and that's awesome, but they're rare. I think most of the people, I was thinking this afternoon, I wish that my story of how I had to reclaim my health and walk back away from mainstream knowledge to the traditional knowledge that my kids are being raised in. I wish my story was just this isolated cautionary tale, but instead it has to be a guide. It has to be, I have to use my story as um, a guidepost, a map for so many people that have unknowingly trusted and consumed things that they thought were safe, that they didn't, citric acid, they didn't look beyond
When
the
you have a
word that seemed
government
really
that's
fine.
telling you, oh, these are generally recognized as safe, right? The Gross
Yeah.
list. And like maybe in these tiny, minute amounts, you could get away with it. But the fact that it's ubiquitous, it's in everything. And
Yeah.
so you might think, oh, well, I'm not really consuming that much, or that's how the company might assert that. And yet when you realize it's in everything, and this is my issue with the added probiotics, you see the same identical
Yes.
strain in
Yeah.
everything. And it's like, okay, well, some strains can have a negative impact on certain people, even though they'll have a beneficial impact on other people. And this is where diversity of ferments is something I really um, advocate for, because some people might think, oh, you're a kombucha camp, you just love kombucha. Kombucha is a cure-all. And I say, well, kombucha is a gateway. It's an entry point into um, all these other wonderful fermented foods and drinks that all have a range of benefits and flavor profiles and completely different microbial colonies that then can support a healthy microbiome because the diversity is there.
And honestly, I use kombucha. I drink kombucha because I love it, but I also use it as a therapeutic, and it's rolling through my day along with other cultures and other. I get a little bit of carrot out of the garden and I don't wash it super well because I know my soil, and I have some
Soil-based
kombucha.
organisms.
Yes.
And then
You
you pay
gotta,
how much to put that in a capsule?
yeah.
Just eat a dirty carrot out of your garden every once in a while.
Yep. That's actually one of the first things that I tell people when they're building back their gut is, well, start by not cleaning your vegetables very well. It's shocking to people. We've got to go back to what the human organism was designed to do, which was, as babies, we're exploring the world and we're putting things in our mouths and we're right on the ground and we're touching our hands that go on the ground and, oh,
Mud
picking our
pies, they're a
nose.
real thing. And
Yes,
when the ground
these are
isn't covered in
developing.
glyphosate, it's safe to put those things in your mouth. And
Yeah,
I mean, that's the tragedy of where we've come to. Fruits and vegetables. My dogs are having a little war in here. Our soil is so depleted, which means our food is so depleted. And so you're told, eat all these servings of vegetables and this and that. But if they're not grown in these quality um, microbial rich soils, they're not going to have you're going to have to eat so many of them. And we simply
yeah,
cannot keep up with the programming, with the way the subsidies work, the way big ag controls what you see in the grocery store. I mean, as president of the Trade Association of Kombucha Brewers, which I'm no longer in that role, but that was a huge unveiling for me, recognizing how much of grocery is grift, and it grinds you like, as a producer, it really wrenches your soul. And unless you're someone who wants to get those huge investments and constantly be asking for money and begging for money because you have to pay off the distributors and the grocery stores, and there's no independence in our food supply. It's so frustrating. Unless you're paying a lot of money. We have Erewhon here in California. You pay $45 for a jar of nut butter. It's crazy. Like,
yep.
who can afford that?
There's no room for small producers
Right.
on the big stage. You've got to be getting to their small producers. It's almost been sort of a crime. We were out in the farmers markets at that kind of bloom of the buy local movement, and people would set aside money every week to go to the farmers market so that they could buy local. And the grocery stores caught on to that as a marketing angle. And so they started pulling in farmers and then putting local tags in the grocery store. And at first they were supporting local farmers and buying in local. But then they redefined what local was, and they just started buying from the big guys and then putting local on it. And what happened is that the consumer was fooled away from the farmer's market into the grocery store, which is more convenient to get your local veg and your mass market cake mix at the same time.
Mhm.
But they were fooled into thinking that they were continuing to support their local small grower. And unfortunately, now people don't go to the farmers markets. They aren't buying from local producers, and the local farmers are going under by design.
Right.
And people just don't, they're not awake to it.
And this is how, but these are the steps we take to decentralize the food system. And that might sound scary when you hear it, like, oh, decentralized, what does that mean? Things aren't all in the same place. Yeah, that's exactly the point, is you have many independent businesses and farmers. And, when you're worried about the price of your eggs, if you have a farmer down the street or you have a backyard chicken, right, suddenly you have something that everybody wants, but it's at a price you can afford
Yeah.
because you already have that relationship with the local economy. And, it's a blessing that there are so many farmers markets. So I highly encourage everybody, when everyone's like, well, what kombucha should I buy at the store? I'm like, well, there are some you can buy at the store. I always advocate you first go to your farmer's market. Who's making it locally? Because not only are you going to get something that's incredibly fresh, it's also going to be using ingredients from that farmer's market to produce it. And so when you buy that bottle of kombucha at your farmer's market, it might cost a little bit more than one in the grocery store because they're competing on price and they have economies of scale. And again, I'm not saying there aren't good products in the grocery store, but when you go to that farmer's market, your money's going back into your community. You're supporting a small producer. You're supporting the farmers who grew the produce and herbs that are also going into that product. And you're going to have something that's got that fresh, delicious flavor profile. So I highly advocate for the farmers market. And you sell products on your farm. You do farm tours. Tell us a little bit more about Soda
We
Farm.
we do. Well, we've morphed over the years. We once upon a time were called Mockingbird Meadows. I think we were
Yeah.
friends when we were Mockingbird Meadows.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the government has had a lot of fun with us over the years. And we've had to make changes just to survive. Every change feels terrible when it's pressured like that, but in the end, it's been way better. So we've done supplements, and at this point, I always felt like I was giving somebody something for a headache, but what I really wanted to talk to them about was the food that they were consuming so that they didn't keep having the headache. And
And when you say something for a headache, you're talking about tinctures. You're talking
yeah, like a
about,
tincture, an herb.
right. You're not talking about a pill.
Nope.
Right.
No, we on our farm, my kids have never had an over the counter or prescription ever. Everything is made here, everything is grown here, and then I make my own remedies. I teach that, and that's in a separate business under Dawn Combs Really out on social media. But unfortunately, we have had to separate anything where I was helping people with health away from the products that we were making because of just a lot of constant intimidation and harassment. So we make food now, but I still believe in people healing from that food, having things in it that are edible, lifting up the body, tonic. And that's why you'll see, like we talked about the echinacea, I've got so many other things in there that are tonic that aren't impacting anybody negatively to be in there, but they're definitely benefiting because of what I know. So we invite people to our farm monthly so that people can peek behind the curtain, right? Like, come and see what's growing here. Come and see how we're doing it. Come and have a soda that I just created this week because I was playing around, or have kombucha on tap and blend in soda syrups and make your own really cool drink in the place that it's made, talking to the people that made it. We do a lot of outreach here. We do farm dinners because, again, that experience of tasting the food in the place where it was made and then being connected to other farmers in the area that are growing fresh food is invaluable to understand The difference between something that comes out of a box and something that was fresh made, properly prepared. We do so much education here because there's so much work to do to help people off that big road of convenience, and everything's thought out for me. It's all fine. I'm
Well,
not
more
going to
than that,
look.
like I'm in Los Angeles. I have access to so many different restaurants, and yet the vast majority of them I don't even want to go to because I know the food is coming from Cisco. It doesn't taste as good as if I prepare it myself. I don't always, not always, at least if I want an affordable meal, right? Like, yes,
Yeah.
I can spend a lot of money and go somewhere where I know everything is well curated, but to have that affordable, healthy, non-impactful food, just it's tough. I mean, I'm excited about the tallow coming back to the fries. I'm super stoked about that. You know, seed oils have been, yeah, I drank oat milk for a minute. I buy it at the store. And then when I was like, how come I have all these boogers and snot? And I look at I'm like, what is this I'm just drinking sunflower oil. This is so awful. I quickly switched to making my own almond milk at home. Again, we can't make everything. I don't make my own bread or sourdough. I also don't buy it, but I do
We have
make
to
my own
pick.
almond milk and make my own kombucha.
We have to pick and choose because our sanity and our time is valuable too. There is truth in the idea that we should have free time, but that's been co-opted into this idea that you should never do anything for yourself and have all this free time. We should be filling that time with preparing our food, growing it if we can, preparing it more. my my
Your camera's ready to show us how to
my
make some of these syrups.
die, but my stand did. I'm still here. Yes.
You're still
My
here? Yeah.
camera tripod just gave up the ghost and went sideways, but I think we're good. Yeah, we need to be filling our free time with things that make us healthy. That's what we should be doing with our time anyway. We
Well, and you
just
look at other
recently,
countries, and you know, for example, in Europe, you're having a mental crisis. They prescribe a vacation. You're in Japan. They say go walk in the woods.
yeah,
We have so completely abdicated our relationship with nature and how healing, how inherently healing that is because we can't help but be we are nature. And so nature heals us because the variety of images we see. When I talk about diversity, I'm like there's not one type of grass. There's not one type of bird. There's not one type of tree or rock or anything. Everything is all lumped together in this beautiful
yeah,
symphony and cacophony. I'm not saying they're all getting along per se. I think there's a lot more cooperation than competition, though of course competition does naturally exist. And so when we look at our food supply and how it's monocropped in this completely
it's not,
unnatural way, or the way that we treat animals who deserve respect, even if we're going to then humanely slaughter them and consume them, um, you know, it's so frustrating to see the complete co-opting of what is a desire of humanity to be connected to nature, to want to live on farms, and this push to crush us all into these urban centers. But I think what, you know, the I'm going to call it a blessing of COVID, as much as it was awful and my
yeah,
own business suffered, right? Like you're saying, whenever these outside forces are forcing us to look at things differently, is we've recognized how important community is, the blessing of these awful LA fires, how important it is to actually take care and steward nature as opposed to just let it
yes,
overgrow and not manage it. It's we're in a really exciting time where we're reawakening to things that our ancestors understood. And you and I are so blessed to be able to bring this information back to people and say, hey, you don't have to accept what the mainstream narrative is telling you about how to be healthy or how many pills you should take. I mean, honestly, I'm on zero prescription drugs. I
yep,
almost never taken over the counter. My whole home is stocked with, wild cherry bark syrup and a variety of things that are there to support me naturally. And sure, if I need something more intense, maybe I go find it. on
Yep,
occasion as needed. But
absolutely.
oh my gosh, so I'm excited that we're here bringing these syrups to people. So, like, shall we show them how to? I mean, honestly, all you're
Yeah.
doing is pouring it in a spoon and mixing in a glass. There's not much to see, but it's still fun.
So this is a kombucha. I have made kombucha in the past. It is something that because I have got so many other things going on that I source, and this is a local kombucha maker. They're called Divine Living. They're here in Ohio, and they're a small family, and
Will
we
you put
source
their
their.
label up close so we can see it? Oh, that's lovely. Divine Living Kombucha out of Ohio.
This is the. I chose this because it is so mild. And again, I'm a bridge, so I'm looking for kombuchas that are mild enough that somebody that's new to kombucha doesn't go, ooh, that's vinegar. Because some of us long-term kombucha folks love the deeper, darker stank of it, but the
Yeah.
newbies often don't. And so this is really mild, and they're trying to keep the sugar low, and I love them. And they do a regular kombucha here that I'm going to use here. And
By regular,
really,
we mean unflavored. We mean it's just the tea, sugar, SCOBY. Look at those
yeah.
bottles.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
it's just plain kombucha. Yeah, I opened this bottle just before we got on here, and I'll hold this up so you can see. Um,
Yeah.
I opened it and didn't pay any attention. I popped the top, and I was looking to prepare to talk to you, and my daughter walked through. She's like, "Mom, that is overflowing," and it was just pouring out of the top of the bottle. So,
It's
yeah.
alive.
So this, I'm doing my, you have our root beer concentrate
Mm.
on your
Hmm.
site right now, and I'm doing our root beer. And really, this is a tablespoon. So it's 2 to 3 teaspoons of syrup. And I'm not even going to use,
Right.
I'm not
Three
all of
teaspoons
that.
equals a tablespoon for those
I
out
might
there.
use, I think I'm going to use like a teaspoon here, tops.
Well,
And
it's great because you can do it to taste. So
I
if you
just
have
flavored it.
someone who wants more of that rooty flavor, they can increase it.
Mm. And now it's a root beer kombucha. And you didn't have to get out all the bags and all of the things, and you didn't have to cook it, and you also didn't have to do a secondary ferment with the right flavors and different things. In an instant, I poured the regular kombucha into my glass, and I poured a little bit of syrup in, and that's it. We make it with real sugar. Everything is clean ingredients. We call it farm fresh. So all of our sodas, if you cannot harvest it off of a farm, it doesn't go in. Because a lot of times somebody will say, oh, it's natural. We use only natural ingredients. And what that means is they used a naturally based essence that
Right.
was alcohol based to flavor it. We literally, when we're done making our syrups, we have compost because we have used fruits and roots and leaves and berries. And so the root
And
beer
my
has,
girls in that soil must be so happy.
yes. And also the chickens, they get a lot of, they get a lot of,
And they must be really healthy and great
yeah,
eggs.
they're more supplemented than half the population in my town. But the crime for me, I'm all about individual. I made my own prom dresses. I customized my wedding dress. I don't like to do anything that is the same thing that comes out of a factory and everybody's got. So for me, when I'm making a soda or a kombucha, I'm flavoring it like this is our citrus dew, and it mimics another dew on the market. That soda, or if it's a Coke or a Pepsi, that soda tastes the exact same, whether you get it this Tuesday or whether you got it in 1982 in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the same every single time. And that is so boring when you have a syrup and you can add it to your own seltzer water or your own kombucha or own kefir. Every time you have the opportunity to make a drink that is uniquely yours, that is only based on, gosh, today I want a lot of flavor, or today I just want a kiss of flavor. Nobody else is going to be able to do that for you except for you.
My kombucha got a little too sour. How can I save it? Boop, little
Hmm.
syrup. There you go. It takes the
Yep.
edge off, dilute it with a little water. It's
Yep.
great. You can make so many mocktails and cocktails. Now,
Yep.
I don't drink a lot of alcohol, but when I do, I like to have kombucha with it. And I love to mix it with all different kinds of things because alcohol, again, is another one of these things that I think has been demonized over the years because we don't use it properly. Um,
Exactly.
Right. It's been medicinal forever. You gave a little brandy on the gums for the babies to help chill them out
Yep.
and various practices that we've done over time. But um, I love making healthy cocktails because I know that I'm getting my little bit of buzz and I'm not going to completely destroy my health because I've got my liver supporting nutrients from my kombucha. And then those tasty flavors come in with those herbs. And that's part of why, again, tinctures were created. You put your
Yes.
herbs in an alcohol. The alcohol is a medicinal carrier.
They
And the
were
trace
tonic.
amounts of alcohol in kombucha are
It,
preservatives.
alcohol is another sugar, and it is a delivery system. And when we drink it devoid of nutrition, when we drink it with the purpose to drug or poison
Mhm.
ourselves, it takes away from the body. If we drink it occasionally with the right things in it, it's a tonic. And again, it should not be right now. The Surgeon General going after alcohol as, nobody should have it, it's cancer causing. Like, again, it's a little bit of truth and a lot of not truth
Right.
in
Yeah.
the goal to go to control people.
And
There's a
then
little bit
you're
of
paying
alcohol.
$20 for a bottle of what? Like these people making, and I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of herbs involved in that, so there's maybe some value. I just wonder though. I have to wonder. It would be great if people then went to a long-aged kombucha, which you can, and we're starting to see these high-end coming out.
I've
Uh,
had some of them and they're delicious.
yeah,
Delicious. But
they
it's
can be
given to your
so good,
body. And the
and it's
alcohol
good for
that
your body.
is created, there's a little bit of alcohol that's created in every ferment. To decide now, honestly, Hannah, I think that is partly what this new vendetta is about,
Mm.
is to cut people off from, well, there's a tiny bit of alcohol in that, there's a tiny bit of sugar in that, oh, I can't have that, that's bad for me, that's going to kill me, it's going to give me cancer. And kombucha isn't going to do
Here,
that.
eat this lab grown fake product. Oh,
Yeah.
the cows emit too much methane. We better not eat red meat that human beings have been consuming since the
Yeah.
dawn of time
But
and has so many.
strangely, the other animals that also fart are not going to be managed. It's really
Oh, yeah.
strange, the things that we're doing. And unfortunate that we have a culture, a populace that is so exhausted, and they've gotten exhausted because they're undernourished and they're being
You've been in a
fed
state of
fake stuff.
inflammation. You see it in how people respond. You're
Yeah.
inflamed by the poison. You're inflamed by the news cycle. You're
Yeah.
inflamed by the propaganda. You're inflamed. Like there's just this, it's a purposeful destruction of community of because they know a divided populace is easier to control. And I don't know who they is, right? They.
Yeah. The
But
people.
this is why I feel a lot of hope around make America healthy again, and the tireless decades of work of folks like ourselves and many in this movement who maybe people haven't heard of until recently, but we've been here
Uh-huh.
educating, accumulating, writing the books, teaching the classes on that individual level. So it's exciting to see how hopefully we're going to continue to help people reconnect with what has always been, which is Mother Nature has everything we need to live a healthy, sane life, right? Like
Yes.
this has to be in order before this works. It doesn't go the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. No matter what I did over, because I still sit down and talk over on doncombs.com. I still talk with people about their health, and I just can't get away from a conversation whether it's depression, anxiety, which people think is all up here, whether it's their arthritis. I'm always saying, let's talk about your digestion first. How are you eating? How do you feel when you eat? Are you getting ferments in? Are you slowing down? Are you making sure that your focus is what are you getting from your food? What are you actually digesting? Because if you're not digesting your food, you're also likely not digesting your emotions. You're also not digesting the spiritual disruption that is going on all around us. And that clogs everything and makes you sick. There's no way to
It
avoid
And then there's so many, I don't know how much you pay attention, like German new medicine. There's actual different theories than germ theory, which has been,
Yeah.
foisted upon us. There's different ways to think
It's
about health and how we
that
create
theory has
health.
been thoroughly debunked at this point. There is
Yeah.
absolutely no way that you could, if we were looking appropriately at the science, which gets dollar sign big S science wants to tell us that we need to keep listening to what they're putting out. But when the theory has been proven incorrect, we have to go looking for a different solution. We have to put forth a new theory. Ironically, there was a theory at the same time, which was the terrain theory, that seems to be a little bit more.
Well, it makes more sense because what happens is then you're in charge of your force field. So your terrain, your terroir, the term I like to use is bacteriosapien because I think that starts to
I love that.
reframe a positive relationship with it's more than just bacteria, but with all the microbes that help to run this amazing, beautiful, dynamic body that can never be replicated, no matter how many science fiction books we read. That's
Yep.
just my thought about it. But there's something so special about being a human. And when we're mad at our bodies because of the pain, when we're, like it's so sad that disconnect that happens because we feel like our body is hurting us, our body is doing something to us, not realizing it's, people have been gaslit by these industries for their profit and their gain and told when you try to step outside or question or wonder if this is the case, and you're told, no, 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 you're wrong. And the science is settled and right. Like our profits depend on your illness. It makes it really hard and uncomfortable for people who really come to us and find us when they're at their lowest point because they've tried
Yeah.
everything and nothing's working. And so now they want to, maybe nature has an answer that I haven't tried because the mainstream is not providing it.
Yep. It's so unfortunate that people often have to get to the end of their rope in many cases before they will turn. And I mean, it's terrifying. Our culture is so hardwired with the Western medicine mentality, and people don't understand how pervasive it is. This germ theory idea is in our government, it's in our food, it's in our medicine, it's everywhere. And so to ask somebody to step outside it, that's, even though it's hurting you, it's security.
Right.
And
Well, because
to
it's
step
like
out
those
of
abusive
the area.
relationships. Why do you
Yeah.
keep getting into them? Why do you stay in them? Because there's familiarity in it, even
Hmm.
as it's painful. And it's really difficult to change, to recognize, oh, I've been lied to. Now my entire worldview has to shift. What else have I been lied to about?
Yeah.
Because what happens is this sort of structure you've built for yourself of belief now may crumble in certain ways. And if I've learned anything in this life, it's that everything is going to keep changing. And even
Yeah.
if you don't want it to, the universe might just smack and make it change anyways. And um, especially in these times when there's such polarizing ways in which news is being presented, and there's more than two sides, but each side thinks they're right, and it's just so wild
Yes.
because I straddle both sides. I'm in the middle
Yeah.
of, like, we all know people who are of many different philosophies and backgrounds and thought processes about what's happening right now, and it's just I'm an observer right now. I have to see what's happening. I have to continue to focus on relieving stress. To me, that's it. Stress is the killer.
Yeah,
What can you do to relieve stress? If it means turning off the news, do it. If it
for
means
real.
going outside and sticking your feet in the grass, do it. If it means, um, immersing yourself in a romance novel, whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
finding the things that are going to help to lower your stress, lower your cortisol. And these herbs do that. They're
Ironic,
tonic, they're tonifying.
ironically, moving into health, it's another control method, but people do this under stress too, and judgment. There's
Right.
terrific judgment back and forth between, are you making everything from scratch, or did you,
Mm. The
you know,
orthorexia, right? Like, how
oh,
perfect are you? Are you adhering to blah, 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 right?
right,
Exactly. And
right,
my answer is good, better, best. Try to make the best
exactly.
choice. If that's not available, make a better one. If that's not available, make a good one.
Every
And maybe the good
single
choice is
time.
getting that fast food meal because you're hungry and you're tired, and it's going to provide the little bit of protein or whatever you need, so that you can get on with your day. And so, but it is what you're saying, Dawn, is so true. Letting go of all these like rules and clicks and I understand there's a human desire to want to separate ourselves into like aggregated groupings, and a desire to be perceived as good, whatever
Yeah,
that means to that
yeah,
group.
yeah. We want to be liked. We want to be looked up to. We want to
We're
be
social
seen as
creatures.
accepted. Yeah. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's been warped. And I see the health movement actually weaponized on people. And it's really sad to me, because what I really want to get out there is, gosh, every time you make a different choice, you need to pat yourself on the back, because if you made a tiny step today, even if it wasn't perfect, if you made a tiny step, you made one little choice that was different, that was for your health today, and then you made like you were catastrophic. You did horrible things the rest of the day. You can still celebrate that you made that one step. You are further towards health today than you were yesterday.
Yes.
And people don't want to give themselves that time and that grace, and
Well, it's
that's,
like, let's say you have a giant pile of dirt and all you have is a teaspoon.
yeah,
Are you not
get to
going to
work.
move it one little spoonful at a time to get it out of your way
Yeah,
because you can't just shove your way through it, right? Like breaking it down into the small. We're here hopefully for a long time. That means we have many days, many hours, many
yeah,
seconds to make these small incremental changes like you're talking about.
yeah. I It's kind of our goal with everything that we create here as a family now, because of course my kids have grown up and they're just as much a part of the business as
Which I love.
we
How
are.
great to
Yeah,
learn an entrepreneurial trade, spirit,
yeah,
energy. I mean, there's math, there's marketing, there's writing, there's,
yeah.
actual caring for the animals. Oh my gosh, that's got to be such a wonderful education for them.
My daughter is she just turned 14, and she's been the head of our test kitchens for probably about a year now, going through college. My son, too, and he's managing some of our internal marketing. And they're doing the things that they want to do, the things that they're excited about. And we hold this business lightly so that they have the room to be who they are, instead of, this is what we do as a family and this is what you'll do. We're trying to make room for them to be who they are. We've brought on granola as a response to them. The sodas came on, and the granola has no seed oils, by the way. Um, we've brought on the sodas to begin with because of my son, who decided he didn't want to use my honey uh, formulas anymore,
Mhm.
and I knew that I could get him to do soda on his own without any argument, and he would be totally on board. I think we try to model in even the way that we do our business, that you have to be engaged yourself in this. You can't do it because you're pressured or shamed. You can't you have to inhabit your health as the individual that you are, and you have to take the small steps that you can and be okay with what you were able to do today and do a little bit more tomorrow.
Well, and that often means making mistakes along the way or
Mm,
investing in things that don't work out or that show you, oh, actually, I don't want to do that. And
yeah.
this sense of like failure is bad, which of course, I've been hard on myself. I've put pressure on myself. I feel guilty that, I had this huge awakening when I had to let go of my warehouse because I had this infinite naive optimism. It's all going to work out. And then when it doesn't, because I have to face the reality that the bills aren't going to get paid and there's no more loans to take, and I don't want to be, I'm already beholden for enough, for enough of a loan, that it's time to take a different tack. And like you're saying, every time there's been these like in the grinder moments, there's an opportunity to be reborn, to let that what doesn't actually serve anymore to become the compost for the new growth. And so there's beauty in failure. There's beauty in not succeeding all the time because it allows us to continue to evolve and grow, which is honestly why we're here.
Yes, we celebrate we celebrate failure in our house, which sounds like a really strange thing to say, but failure is just like being open and honest with it and saying, well, that didn't work out, or I made a mistake, or it didn't go where I wanted it to go. And now I'm going to pick myself up and do something different. Is the failure is just a place you weren't meant to be. And now you're shifting and you're going towards a place that you're being funneled to go that's going to be the right place. It, we have to, as a society, stop demonizing mistakes and failures, because honestly, people then aren't honest about it and they don't learn. And if you aren't
Or make
failing
themselves
something,
sick. They're like, oh, I can't change. I have to stay. There's all
yeah,
right. I mean, I know it was challenging even for your husband to decide, how do I be involved in the business or do I
for
need
sure.
to have external revenue coming in, right? And so, all families at some point have to go through these tough questions because things, we don't live in a culture anymore where you can get a job and that's your job for the rest of your life and you get a nice pension at the end and then you enjoy
Mhm.
retirement. Like that myth is gone and has been destroyed for a long time. And this brings me to the notion of, right, we talk about gig economy and AI replacing jobs, and really what I
Mhm.
see happening, and I don't know, maybe you'll agree or not agree, but I think what this the beauty of what this brings us to is that we get to become again a culture of makers.
Yeah.
Guilds, you had guilds. You don't need, look, I have way too many clothes, but right, I don't need all those clothes. And if I paid a premium for a beautiful, well-crafted item that then could be, accessorized in many ways, and I knew it was made by someone who had these, I think we're going to have a revival of arts and artistry. And
Yeah.
instead of everything being these plain, these concrete modernistic structures that they build out there with no, like, sure, they have nice lines, but where's the architecture? Where's the touches? Where are the flourishes? And
Where's the
I'm
human?
excited because I think that means we give people creativity back into their own hands and an opportunity to put their works of art into the world, and then we get to use and consume those.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think for a long time, there's been a great fear. What comes to mind, and the idea of the failures and the not wanting to fail ever, is preventing yourself from detoxifying. And we make a lot about detoxifying. And but then we model in our behavior never detoxifying because we're going to hold on to everything. And we see that in our culture over the past, I don't know, like 8 to 10 years. People are just terrified that there's an ending coming, that there's doomsday,
They've been
all of this
predicting
stuff.
the end times are near since before the
Yeah.
Bible was written.
But the thing is that our culture right now is not sustainable. The way that we're doing food is not sustainable. The things that we do, by and large, on a mainstream culture methodology is not sustainable, and it
It's
will
extractive as
come
opposed
to an
to
end.
how do we
Yeah,
do this in a way that works with nature? Right? We start to learn
but
that
it's
the
good.
Amazon rainforest was cultivated, that human beings contributed to it because they would grow specific types of food or plants in order to, it's not just some wild forest that nobody ever tended to. And so I'm excited. I just think I'm excited for what's coming next
I
because
agree.
I think
That's
there's a
what we have to do, is
revival.
we have to
It's
dream the new.
marriage of technology and nature.
There is an ending. I think there things will fall apart and systems are breaking. And instead of holding on to the fear of that, we need to dream what's going to come next. What's the exciting thing that can take its place? What am I good at that I can put into that space? And I think you're right. I think we have the opportunity for a lot of people to step up and say, well, I have this vision of buildings this way, or I have this vision of soda this way, or bacteria and everybody's gut being healthy this way. I think
Yes,
there's space for that to come forward. You don't get that unless things burn to the ground, unfortunately.
it's true. You got to have the burning so the regrowth can come.
Yeah.
And on that happy note, we are running a special on your syrup. So use coupon code SWEET15 for 15% off. And if you're one of Dawn's clientele, that's just for the syrups at the Kombucha Camp store. But if you're one of Dawn's viewers and want to get started with fermentation, use, what did we do? What was your coupon
Dawn
code?
15.
Dawn 15 and get 15% off anything in the store. So that applies to the cultures, the fermentation supplies, our continuous brew systems, our amazing organic tea blends, and of course the syrups as well. So if you're ready to get started with your own fermented sodas at home, be they and augmenting them with these delicious concentrates, we've got you covered. So we'll drop those coupon codes here in the comments. Dawn 15 for 15% off everything at the K Camp store, or Sweet 15 for 15% off the syrups. There we go. So everybody can enjoy that. And thank you so much. Clearly, we're so thirsty to connect and to share things we've loved and have been on our hearts for a long time. And I'm really hopeful that a lot of people are ready for these conversations and are excited to explore these other avenues of bolstering their health naturally from inside.
Yeah, it's time. Thanks for having me, Hannah. It's always lovely to talk with you.
You too. Take good care, friend. We'll see you again next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.